Hello, everybody. Welcome to Andrelczyk Amusement Academy number 9. Thank you all for joining today. If this is your first time here, then thanks for joining in. Hopefully you will enjoy the stream. Basically, I am a real-life theme park designer who likes to play RCT and teach how to build realism in coasters. So that's what I'm going to do. Each week we pick a theme and go through up to 9 layouts, sometimes even more, and talk about the history behind the coasters and kind of what makes them what they are. So that's what we're going to do. Hey Cactus, hey Zara, welcome in, welcome in. So today's theme is a little bit stretched. I kind of had to make it fit. So we have a new addition to RCT2 as of earlier this week or last week, I guess. The Rocky Mountain construction. Hey, we're curious. The RMC coaster has been added to the base game of Open RCT. So I wanted to do that, but that only fits, I say, two or three. You could probably do more. Hey, RWE. So I needed to figure out what else to do with it. So in addition to the 2 RMC layouts that we're going to do today, I figured I'd do sort of more new agey, kind of modern looping coaster type stuff. So we're going to look at the Gerstlauer triple launch coaster, something kind of like Fury at Babylonland, perhaps. Then we're going to look at an Intamin triple launch, maybe like Pantheon. Then we'll do an Intamin hypercoaster of sorts, so something like Hyperion at Energylandia. Then we'll jump over to the Mack launch coasters. We'll do something maybe kind of like Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. Then we'll have 2 Vekomas. We're going to do one with a launch and one with a lift. And then we'll finish up with Premiere, and we'll do something like Icebreaker, which if you watched before, you know that one is a little personal to me. So that will be a fun ending one to do. Do Lightning Rod. I very well may. Like I said yesterday when we were in the group chat on the DK server, Lightning Rod requires terrain. Like, terrain is what makes Lightning Rod what it is. So it just depends if I want to do the terrain or not. But I will say it is my favorite coaster overall of the 950 some that I've ridden. So it's certainly near and dear to my heart, I suppose. But what we are going to start by doing is the way that I've kind of broken these out is an RMC that is redone from an existing wooden coaster versus one that is a ground up wooden coaster. So let's go to the tape, and we're gonna go check out our CDB and take a look. So Rocky Mountain Construction is a relatively new entrant into the coaster building world. They haven't been going for terribly long. Their first coaster was Outlaw Run, which was 2000, or sorry, first ground up coaster was Outlaw Run. Their first actual coaster was New Texas Giant in 2011. Before that, they did Ride Erection and a number of other stuff for other manufacturers. So they're not new to the coaster world. Their designer Alan Schilke had come from Aerodynamics, so there's a pretty storied history there. And then Fred Grubb, who's the other owner of the company, he also has a long history in the theme park industry. The way that they started coasters in for their company was by taking existing wooden coasters and basically retrofitting them with steel rails and putting a more intense layout on the ride with inversions in some cases and just extreme airtime and some pretty exciting elements. So New Texas Giant was their first one, and you can see it here. This was an existing wooden coaster, and they took this and added a little bit more to the lift hill, made it taller. Lift hill was steeper first drop, all sorts of airtime. You look at the height of this first drop here versus this little tiny airtime hill here. Pretty incredible difference, I would say. And you have a lot of these kind of overbanked corners. This one doesn't have inversions, but this is pretty much the one of the few which does not. So Lightning Rod does not also, and but for the most part, all of the RMC coasters have like roll inversions and other things like that too. So Outlaw Run was their first ground up roller coaster. So this used their topper track, which is basically it's a steel rail that has a slab of wood on top. They call it more like a wooden track. It still is pretty much steel, so it's up and down. You can kind of consider, some people consider this wooden. I don't necessarily. It's somewhere in between. But you can see here some of these like pseudo inversions here. This one rolled fully over and then rolls back out on this element. A pretty cool layout there. This layout was sort of all over the place with Outlaw Run because there was a lot of space to work with, so it just kind of went out into the woods, did some stuff, and came back. Speed management, not exactly their forte. It kind of crawls through the final 2 inversions on here. There's actually 2 rolls as it comes right up into the station. You can kind of see on the layout here, number 8. It's still sort of a weird, not super flowy layout, but I mean, why do you need that when you're just kind of off in the woods? So those are sort of the 2 dichotomies of which way RMC goes, either rebuilding an existing wooden coaster into something more extreme, or building a ground up. And there haven't been too many ground up. So as far as ground up goes, you've got Outlaw Run. At Outlaw Run, you've got Lightning Rod at Dollywood. You have Goliath at Six Flags Great America. Zadra at Energylandia. And that's pretty much it as far as their hybrid type coasters go. Comartin, also Wildfire. So that's, for the most part, they're sort of known for taking existing ones and rebranding them into something a little more extreme, a little more exciting. So it's a pretty cool design. But let's jump back into the game, and we are going to get to work here as our first one. So the first one I have is what I'm calling a refurbishment, which is really just taking the existing and taking an existing wooden coaster and kind of redoing it in an RMC style. So I went and made us a wooden coaster. So I kind of patterned this off of a CCI design. So it's kind of got this little swoopy corners here. It's got kind of a oval type layout, got a weird helix at the end, things like that. So what we're gonna do is make this into an RMC. So what I will do first is we're gonna save this. We'll call this RMC Refurb. And let's give ourselves this coaster once again. Oops, not Ricochet. There it is. Line today. Turn this guy around and place it. So in order to select the RMC, if you have the developed version of OpenRCT installed, then what you need to do is go into cheats, and you need to enable the show arbitrary ride type changes menu. So to do that, once you're done there, you'll get this little drop down box on your ride. You build the ride, you can just start it if you want. You don't have to do the whole thing, but you can take this and turn this into hybrid coaster. So what we'll do is transition this over and turn this into a RMC layout. Just to start, we'll turn it into that coaster. What companies has RMC refurbished? A number of them. DIN, CCI, GCI. They've done kind of a number of different stuff. So it's a variety for sure. But they've got it's not so much manufacturer based as in who's got an old wooden coaster and doesn't want to put as much maintenance into it, so they'll hire RMC instead to do it. So that's where we are. First, let's switch over our ride here to RMC hybrid coaster. We're going to give it a 6-car train, because 6 cars is pretty standard for the RMC coasters. So let's just kind of look at these areas and see what we can do. First things first, these rides tend to have kind of a weird something out of the start. So we'll just do we can either do a banked corner, or we can do something like kind of come out and then come back over and give it a little bit of an outward bank. Unfortunately, we can't do some of the weird elements that we would like to do, I suppose. So like an outward banked corner or some of the other inversions. Yeah, Twisted Twins is a good one too. That's a fun ride. Okay, so I'm gonna leave. It should be back now within a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds here. I'm reasonably far behind the moment. Okay. I'm gonna leave the lift hill steepness as it is. A lot of the new ones are going to have steeper lift hills, but and kind of the ground up ones almost look better. Sometimes that works, but right now instead we're going to go with the big vertical drop here to start, and we're going to pull out this second big hill. The idea with these is to reuse as many of the footers as you can. So have that nice big pull out here, and then we will put a little tiny hill here right after the roll. We're going to go ahead and turn this to continuous circuit mode so that we can at least see what the pacing looks like on the ride. Airtime hill right before the lift. I just don't have the speed for it before the lift, but after the lift, sure. Speed up that lift a little bit. So inversions are acceptable on RMCs. They're encouraged. Typically, you're going to see them as rolls. They've also done some dive loops, but that's pretty much it, actually. There's not a whole lot of other kind of big elements like that. So this section out so we can do this. You're not going to see loops. You're not going to see other stuff like overrolls and things like that. I mean, there's not to say that you couldn't, but it's just not something that we've seen from them before. So a kind of consideration as far as that goes. All right, so let's kind of try and get back up to where we were here. Maybe too high, actually. Take a look. So we got an airtime hill, we got a double up. Just a little too much. We'll go do that. That looks super choppy. Let's see if we can make that look less choppy. There we go. That looks slightly better. Not totally ideal, but better. These rides kind of have a nice flowing layout, even though it always doesn't quite seem like they're gonna make it through some of the elements. On the whole, you're gonna see a lot lower heights on the ride too. Um, then the other consideration here, yeah, I mean some of them have the lift taller, some of them don't. It's not a requirement by any means, but some of them certainly do. But I figured for this one we're gonna not. Reusing the footers is kind of the biggest key thing at the moment. So I am actually going to use this direction and go backwards on the layout, because one of the other things you'll see in a lot of cases for these rides is that the rides that they take over from, they redo, were longer than the ride that is taking its place. So the RMC is usually a little bit shorter. We'll put our first inversion in here. Nice. Drop here, we'll get it to line up nicely with the other one here. Now, the other bit that RMCs are known for is sort of the weird banking stuff. So, whether it's like outward banking or whatever it may be, um, that's something that you'll see a little bit differently, perhaps. So, that's what we'll do this little airtime hill here. Um, I think that there's still a lot of hype because a lot of the world's enthusiasts have not gotten a chance to ride one, but now that there's more in Europe, I think we're getting to that point where they are able to go do them. So it's I think the hype is still the hype is still there, but it may lessen somewhat over time. I mean the fact remains they're amazing coasters, so I don't think that anybody's going to be disappointed to get an RMC for sure. I think now in the next little while we're going to really be able to see what is the actual maintenance cost of these things. Um, so that's a big one. Is what's the actual maintenance cost going to be versus what's kind of proposed. Sure, they're all smooth right now, but the idea was that these are going to save on maintenance cost from other rides. And certainly Lightning Rod, we've seen that not to be the case. I mean, launch issues notwithstanding, they still have a lot of track work issues too. So it's very well possible that you're not going to see that you're gonna see more maintenance over time and people being slightly less inclined to get them. But I mean, who knows? I think there's certainly a pretty strong case to put in one of these rides. They're definitely fan favorites, that's for sure. So the RMC trains that X7 had made a while ago are the ones that I'm using right now. They're honestly not the best as far as pacing goes. So I'm not a huge fan of these, but um, so it goes. I think we'll have to deal with that. You can always do these weird inversions like the barrel roll into a corkscrew. Now keep in mind that the corkscrew element was not included in this pack. A little disappointed in that. I wish that they would have, but I understand why X7 didn't. He wasn't happy with the way that it was turning out, so fair enough. It's his pack; he can do what he wants with it. But I would have liked to have seen I would have liked to have seen the corkscrew and just some of the other elements in here. And there's no like vertical loop, which makes sense because why would there be? None of the RMCs have. We do have the launch lift hill, which is cool for lightning rod. Yeah, Liam wouldn't like that very much, wouldn't he? With the the tracks going back to back, but that's all right. You can deal with that. So let's pull this one out, and then we'll pull this whole big section out here. And really now we're just making a large out and back coaster more than anything. Another roll on this. The rolls can be pretty fast. You don't want them to be, crazy fast, but they can be relatively fast. And don't worry too much about like crazy airtime, because that's kind of what these rides are known for. Like little hills. I mean, you can see the little hill that we're putting here right after the big drop. You want that kind of airtime, but I think in RCT it just looks bad if you go crest and then immediately start coming down. So that's an option. Just something to consider. Um, and then let's kind of figure out how we want to finish this essentially. So we've got kind of the past layout that went around this, which we don't really have the speed for. But we do have this helix that was here. So maybe we can do something with that. Sometimes because they are a reuse of an existing layout, at least or existing footer layout, sometimes they look a little bit odd as far as the overall layout goes. Not to say they can't build new footers, they actually do for most all of these, but we're trying to keep a relatively simple design, because that's the whole point of these coasters. They're supposedly relatively cheap because you're taking an existing coaster and kind of reworking it. And there we go. Not the most inspired layout, but it does follow kind of what the original one did, and we're not adding too many footers. We're keeping the elements of the rolls in there, and you kind of have the outward banked corner, some of these airtime hill elements, the fast hill, the double up, things like that. So we can call this one. I think there's definitely a lot more you can do. This is a pretty safe standard layout. I do agree with you, McAndy, that the supports on the ground actually make me okay putting this one on the ground, just because you have the full supports drawn through there. I wish that the other rides did something similar. Actually, it looks really nice. So that one I'm gonna be okay with. So we'll leave that. We'll leave this one as it is. So there's our first RMC. We'll call that one done. So now for the custom ones. Like I said, there's a few custom ones. We looked at Outlaw Run, look at Goliath, we'll look at Lightning Rod, and we will look at both Wildfire and Zadra. Outlaw Run we already looked at, we'll clear that one off. Goliath is an interesting one in that it's a pretty short layout. It doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. but it's a pretty impressive ride. So the cool thing about this one is this was the first 0G stall, and there's not a great picture of it. In this you can kind of see it. There's the support work is cool on this one because the whole lift hill structure is a big steel truss structure, and then there's the airtime hill is kind of hung underneath of it, so you can see the steel structure here. Then the airtime hill is upside down, hung underneath the whole structure, kind of stuck out to the side. It's really cool. This one also has essentially a dive loop on it. Here we go. That's a great shot of it. So this is what RMC calls a 0G stall, where you flip upside down, you take an airtime hill, and then you flip right side up again. Can't do that in the game yet. There's potential that in the future we'll be able to once we get to the new save format, but for now it's not something that can be done. So something for later, perhaps. What we can do though is the 0G stall, which I think is a pretty cool. Or sorry, not the 0G stall, the dive loop, which is pretty neat. So you go up, flip over, and then use the quarter loop coming down. I think that's a pretty cool idea. Lightning Rod remains the only launched RMC coaster. It launches up and over the mountainside. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at this one, just because it is great. Let's find... let's find the coaster force one. Won't get a copyright strike. Okay. So this one comes out of the station and then right onto a launch. And the launch goes up the lift hill here. You'll see it ends right there. So we're going to crest with not as much speed, but still a little bit of speed. And then we're over the mountain on the other side. You can see how heavily used the terrain is on this. Big drop right down into the valley. And then we get into these signature elements. This is a wave turn here where it's just banked the whole way over the top. Here you've got this great outward banked corner here before it snaps back in the other direction. Got this great little airtime hill, airtime hill, and then we got four airtime hills on the way down the hill to this finish point, up and into the brakes. So not too bad. Pretty cool layout here. Definitely does a lot of interesting things. See that it has died again. Yeah. Let's come back now. Hopefully you saw some of it. But great layout. Super cool. My favorite coaster. Although I haven't ridden it for a couple of years now because whenever I go, it's down. So if we move on from Lightning Rod. Hey, Mav. Welcome into the technical troubles stream. For some reason, OBS keeps dropping out for whatever reason. So I don't know. And yeah, you should apologize. I know it's your fault for the fact that Lightning Rod is down. So who knows? But let's take a look at Colmarden's Wildfire here. So this is the next one that I want to look at. Some pretty cool stuff here. Again, the lift hill that's got the steel supports coming down from it, so pretty neat design. Beautiful setting for one. I think that's one of the biggest things that this coaster has going for it. This outward banked corner and all sorts of stuff like that. Great first drop. See the rocky landscape around that they had to work with. Definitely a challenge to build around some of these things. I can't imagine this was a cheap coaster by any means, especially for a park that really didn't have coasters before. They had a little Vekoma kids coaster, so definitely a big up from where it was before. Pretty cool there. And then Zadra is impressive. It kind of takes some of the best parts of other rides and it makes them all in one layout. So you can see the Goliath first drop element, and then you have this great zero-G stall. I have a bunch of rolls in here, a bunch of the weird banked corners, low to the ground stuff, airtime, all sorts of everything. So a lot going on here. So let's take a look and let's jump back to the game, and we're gonna try and see what we can do. You know, it didn't seem impressive to me initially, and then the more that I looked at it, the more I became kind of impressed by it. So I would like to ride it. I think it could be very cool, but hard to say. All right, we'll get our train. We're gonna try and give ourselves some more height this time, just because we know these trains fall off pretty fast. Let's get the hybrid coaster. Make it a different color than the last one. Make it orange this time. I mean, we'll go for the lift hill, or the steep lift hill. You can make these rides tall, so RMCs can be, you know, upwards of 200 feet. They're big coasters. You can definitely do a lot with it. Oh, I'm sorry you never got to ride this. That's really sad. I feel your pain. Hopefully you can get it again soon. All right. Kind of wonder, can we go flat here and roll, or can we go upward helix? Then well, we can do both. Yeah, Iron Gwazi might as well be ground up, considering that it did so much rework on the different stuff. All right, we're gonna do kind of an extreme start to ours. There's a couple of these roll drops on other RMCs where it's sort of a barrel roll into a drop that don't necessarily twist, but this one is. So we'll start it like this, something kind of interesting. Yeah, at least Untamed is a good one, and it seems like it gets a lot of good press, or a lot of good reviews anyway. I'm really curious to ride it because I want to see, since it's the first one on mainland Europe, is it overhyped because that's the first one that enthusiasts in Europe have typically ridden, or is it literally as good as all the other ones? And I can kind of see it both ways. So I'm pretty excited to ride it. The layout looks great. I would love to do it. So definitely cool and worth doing. I'm a huge fan of these hill kind of drop things. So we're gonna do that. How many cars do I have? 6 cars. Such a small train. Holy cow. Oh, we'll do this instead then. How about? Almost too much at the top. It does seem like it packs a lot. It does seem like it packs quite a bit in there for a pretty short overall height. That's definitely something that it has going for it. Okay. That we can do. What I don't want to do is slow it down too much. I want to have kind of a pause at the top, but I don't need a whole lot for that. I run into this, aren't I? Again, it's fine. Iron Rattler was good. I think my complaint with Iron Rattler was that it was short. In that, I understand that they're typically shorter than the ride that they replaced, but I didn't like that it had this great big drop off of the cliffside into that cave and or the tunnel, and you're feeling great about it, and then all of a sudden it's just in the brakes. Um, so I don't know. Still next to the 135-degree stall thing. What do you mean? Oh, you mean in the real one? I'm very confused for a minute. Yeah, I will. I will not disagree with that. What is there is great. It is a very good coaster, um, and I'm a fair fan of it. I mean, I think it's a pretty cool looking ride. See where we are sitting here. Oh, run right into the ride. Where does this line up? That could work just fine. Trying to make a nice little compact something for flat ground here. I didn't really want to do terrain. Um, so we're going to instead do this. Let it go this direction. I will say I am super excited for outer banked corners whenever those can happen. I don't know when or if or how long it's going to be. It sounds like it's going to be 300 years until that new save format comes along. But whenever it does, I am here for those outer banked corners. Like very excited for that. Let's also, now that we've got this kind of figured out, a nice little. Yeah, I mean that's sort of the thing. To me, the save format has now taken on an almost mythological deal where it's like, all right, it's gonna happen at some point, says whomever, but it's just when. And it's kind of at this point like, all right, well, I don't really care. It'll happen when it happens. Like there's gonna be, it'll be worth the wait when it happens because there's gonna be so much stuff that you can do with it, but it's just getting to that point is gonna be tough. I'll go for that. The SV8 be funny. All right, I don't need to go back through the structure. I keep kind of thinking about that, but yeah, I would imagine it absolutely cures cancer. Yeah, the higher object limit is gonna be a big thing for me. I want a higher object limit, ideally a higher rides limit too, but I can't be super choosy, perhaps. Actually see too if this looks stupid or not. I can bank it and then I can bank it back. Doesn't look awful. So from what I understand, the new format really opens up the game for a lot of different things. So getting rid of pretty much all the limits, for sure. That's kind of the big one. Um, but I mean, there's definitely a lot of benefits that I'm sure others have detailed as well. And I understand that my chat is like way behind where I am actually. So by the time I read it and answer it, I'm sure somebody else has already done a better job answering it than I have. I would agree with you about the downward diagonal curves. That would be a lifesaver, I think, in a lot of ways. Just the ability to do all of the kind of weird shaped stuff and just interesting inversions and all that that everybody really wants to do just hasn't been able to do because of the limitations of the game. Yeah, I could, and even if it's not different degrees of banking so much as it's just you have some overbank options or some things like that, I'd be very excited to have that as a potential. Yeah, I mean the diagonal inversions is going to be a big one. I know from listening to what X7 has to say, he's really into trying to get medium size inversions, which I'm again here for it. I can't wait for that. That'd be really cool. So who knows? Maybe we can go that way. See how our pacing is. We're probably getting ready to wrap this up. Pacing's not too bad, hanging up there. Haven't done super many weird banked hills just yet. Smaller corkscrews. Will it just take up a 1x2 space? Maybe so. Be funny. Let's can't do a roll there. Have some ideas here. Ooh, I gotta go 3 full flat. I don't know if I want to do that. I can do 1 flat here. Go. Once again, I continue lining up my drop with some other stuff. Big thing that I'm into. Yeah, quarter helixes. Holy cow, that would be big deal for me. Yeah, those kind of wish list items. I'm just, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was wrong. We're gonna start with this one. Bank this way. Then we'll bank down. Flat. So it's just a matter of um, it's just a matter of the ride needs to be added into the game to access those quarter helixes, or what's the deal with it? Is that the idea? I don't fully understand how the game works as far as all those mechanics go. Now I can do my bit here that I want to do. Okay, well that's, I guess that's one of those nice to have, but not something somebody's going to spend a lot of time with right now. 2, 3, 4, 5. A little bit of a shame. Brakes. Why not? We'll do a double helix or a double roll to end it. Okay. Let's give this bad boy a test. I'll take Parkitect with extra steps if it keeps this overall aesthetic. I mean, I like Parkitect's stuff, and I think it's a great game. I just am so ingrained or entrenched in Open or RCT2 over the years. Right. Nice little weird outward bank jog there on the diagonal. Roll there. We're banked here. Going into 2 rolls at the end and then into the brakes. Not bad. Could also, if we wanted to, let me see how this looks just before I finish up with this. Could level off here and do outward banking instead. Doesn't look bad. Kind of feels like you might see. Then we'll actually take these 2. Do that to it. I think on the whole, I'm happy with that. Hopefully, you guys like the overall look. Let's go with a great yellow train, seats, orange track, basically Tatsu. Nice. All right. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that layout, actually. To be honest, this is the first real RMC attempt that I've done since this has come out in the game, so I haven't really played much with it, just because I haven't had the time to, so I'll take it. I'm relatively happy with how that turned out. I mean, I will say, X, this is a beautiful looking model. It just naturally fits in the game. It flows really well between elements. It just looks good. The detail is there. You can tell you did your research on the actual ride type. So A+, congratulations for that. I think it looks really nice. I'm excited to see all the other work that you've got in the pipeline for other stuff. So congratulations, well done for providing a great asset to the community, because this is one that I think we're going to see a lot of here in the future. So well done. All right, so let's jump on back to the coaster database, clear out all of our RMC fun stuff, and let's look at Gerstlauer. So with Gerstlauer, you can do a couple of different things. We're really talking about an infinity coaster, and it just so happens we're going to put a triple launch on it. You can do that in a couple of ways. I'm looking at the some Dutch and Belgian ones at the moment. So there's kind of 2 options almost. There's also let me also pull up Loggerins Gold Rush. No, not that Gold Rush. Gold Rush. There it is. Layout diagram, there's not. So this one's interesting in that it doesn't have any kind of switch track or anything, so it's running one train, but the ride starts by launching forwards, stalling out, rolling backwards through the station with the launch, going up through backwards inversion, and then running forwards again after that stall, and then going through the entire layout. One train, lower capacity, obviously, but a pretty cool idea. Fury here at Babajanlan took that to a little bit of an extreme and added a switch track. So the riders can actually choose when they get onto this switch track here whether they want to go forwards or backwards on the majority of the layout. So, it's probably just going to be easier to watch the layout here. Let's see if there's a... We'll look at the official POV of this ride. So after you've come out onto your switch track, you get a voting button on your lap bar, and you can either vote for backwards or for forwards, and that determines which way we're facing here. So this is forwards as the option. So get this kind of slow little launch here forwards, up this inversion, but it's going to stall out halfway through, or up this airtime hill, stall out. Then we get a backwards push, up the upside down stall here, forwards push again. Now we're going to go up and over the hill. Get this sort of dive loop type twist to it. And all these kind of big, flowy, super fun inversions. Things you can't easily do in RCT, unfortunately. This little dive loop. Little loop here, just in general, kind of a stretch loop. And then we come into the brakes. But first, we go up this another nice little half inversion. Come back. Rock once more. And then stop on the switch track. I feel like this last rock is maybe a little bit unnecessary. I think if it was set back further on the switch track, it probably could have been able to avoid that, but it's fine. Yeah, we're okay with that. But pretty neat ride. Definitely something that park needed because they were sort of stagnating for such a good while. So let's go and take a look at what we can do here. We're going to put a launch track in. So the booster has the effect that it only launches forwards on the track. Does not launch backwards when you move over it. So you can do the triple launch. You kind of have to fudge it where you go forwards with the propulsion, then you just go backwards under gravity, and then you go forwards again under propulsion. So it's really only 2 forwards launches and a fake backwards launch. You can shoestring it. Zarathrust and King DDD did that in the last Grand Tour entry for what was that, Namibia, where it launches backwards first. So pretty cool. It's definitely a more complicated way to do it, but also a good way to be flashy and fun. So pretty cool. We're not going to do that here because I just don't have the time to do it, and I've also never done it before. So, oh, hey, your first one today. I didn't do it the entire stream last time, so I'm a little disappointed that now it's thanks to that, but oh well, nonetheless. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna change this over to a Infinity coaster, which actually we're gonna use the Tower Speed coaster. I'm gonna do a 3-car train for this one. See what that looks like. It's about 2. Fine. Start like this. Rid of that. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, is just anti-merging stuff, which is annoying, I find. Okay, booster track. What I should just do is go ahead and turn this to Twister, so then we can make odd elements, such as a backward spike here. The Beyond Vertical Spike is a pretty cool trend. I'm a fan of it. I will talk about it more when I get to Icebreaker. Alright, so we're going to just call this 45 because we're going to have to turn it back to Giga Coaster since all the launches on the different rides have different speed parameters. So something to consider as you're looking at these. We lost the stream again? We sure have. Hooray. There it comes. Coming back. Slowly. Yeah, what a mess today. What a trash internet situation or whatever it is that's causing this. Regardless, not my favorite. I should put the on-ride photo in. A piece that I don't think I've ever really used. So I'm going to keep this as a we're going to keep this as the Twister Coaster track, and then just because I don't want to really... Oh, alright, fine, we won't. Didn't want to have to put back all these inversions once I was done, but just me being lazy. So let's see where we sit so far on this launch track. It's a pretty short launch, but it's powerful enough. You can see we're already over the top there, so that's not what we want. Let's go ahead and actually remove this one. I don't want it to launch until we get onto the launch track. We'll hide that later. Pretty much stall on there. Let's... Oh, 90. How did we end up at 90? Holy cow. How that happened, but not what we needed for, call it like 54. Still too much. We're at 36, 44, 44, and then we'll do 254s. And get a nice little smooth acceleration up there. Then these guys over here, we're just going to put at 44. We'll put these a little bit higher. Make sure we get that boost over the top. Okay. Give this another try. I don't make a whole lot of these triple launch coasters just because I don't really like playing around with the launch stuff like this. It's a little bit of a hassle to me. There we go. Get ourselves through that inversion. Now we'll turn this off so I can get back to the twister track, since I'm going to spend most of this layout doing twister track type things. We will need the B&M track for the most part. Some weird elements, perhaps. This is one of the few times that I'm okay with using the steep twist for Gerstlauer coasters. Might actually put this on the other side of, or the entry into the launch on the other side here. 0.1%. We actually might have some pacing issues here. Let's go back to the Giga Coaster. See, because this is probably going to have some slow peaks here. Almost make it. Pull back through, kind of up into that inversion. Have a slow launch over, or a slow push over, but not too bad. Actually, I kind of like that pause there, because a lot of these Gerstlauer coasters do have some little bit of pause there as you get to the top, which I think is kind of nice. Turn this off because it won't work. All right. Yeah, Gerstlauer is a big, or are big fans of the hang time, I've found. So, definitely worth seeing. Wrap that element there. Maybe do something similar here. Barrel roll this. Or not. That's why. I was wondering why all of these things were suspiciously working. Never that straightforward. And then do depends on what the speed it looks like. We can do a barrel roll half loop and then hit the brakes. Just a little bit worried that's going to be too fast. We need to do the quarter loop because that might be better. I think it looks better. So we'll do a nice little cheetah hunt-esque wind up to it. Roll over. Quarter loop. Then either go underground or up. 13. That should be fine as far as speed goes, but we will see, since this is a shorter train, that when you're on the shorter train, a lot of times you end up with a lot less speed towards the end. just too. It's too far is my problem here, because I wanted to come almost like straight down into the brakes, which really means that it's got to hit. We've got a couple person station. Call it like that. I'll call the brakes 1, 2, 3, 5. I really want to hit it there instead. It's just a matter of don't want to go to that. Do one of these outward banked bits, I suppose. That looks a little silly, doesn't it? But this. Ever so slightly. Okay. You really need to stretch this out just a little bit because it looks a little silly if you don't. Okay, and then we'll just have a nice short brake run. Block brakes there. Here maybe. 1, 2. Now we can get rid of this guy. Then we'll enter it from this side instead. Okay. Turn back to Giga. Then we get the boost from that. It's not built far enough. Track is not a complete circuit. That is. So for the purposes of the video, I'm just going to leave this at the 1 train. If you really want to make this into 2 trains, you can do it. You just basically have to connect the sections that aren't connected, and that way you end up with a ride that recognizes itself as block brakes. You just make all those bits invisible. Oof, lots of hang time in there. Lots and lots. Same thing there, but actually not too bad. I think I'm okay with that. I think I am okay with that. So let's gonna make this ugly. Oh. Fair enough. Done. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put back some inversions. Can't use the Premiere because I don't have the large loop. We'll this guy. All right, so there, while I've taken the restart downtime here to add back in these inversions here, so there's our the weird. Oh, I missed the beyond vertical one here. Oops. Where did that go away? There we go. Oh, I think I actually built it one higher. Do that. Okay. There we go. That is our Gerstlauer triple launch coaster. Not a bad little layout, I think. Put 2 trains on that, make it look pretty nice. Okay, so next up is an Intamin triple. So let's go back to the database here. Use the Blitz cars, maybe. I'll probably use the new ones that Space K made. So Pantheon is a layout that I'm kind of basing these ideas off of. Although if Pacific Coaster was here, he will laugh because I'm gonna also steal a lot of what I'm doing from a layout that he's done but hasn't released yet because I like it a lot. But since I haven't looked at it for a while, it's gonna be different. But anyway, this one's got some interesting elements in that there's a little hill in the center of the launch track on the orange section you can see. But this one has essentially 4 launches. You got to launch just a little bit out of the station through this first inversion down here where it's labeled Minerva. The theming is a little suspect on this one. But comes up through onto the launch track, forwards launch, backwards launch, forwards launch again, up over that top hat. Pretty huge outward banked corner here on the section marked Pluto. The 0G stall here on this last bit. And then a final roll into place. Here's the vehicle. Pretty cool one that was displayed at IAPA. Here's a great shot of the outward banked corner. The version, some of the other different pieces. It almost looks like an inverted coaster from here. So pretty interesting. But let's go back. And I'm going to build this one entirely with the twister coaster track just because I don't want to have to keep going back and forth to get it to line up. Yeah, Intamin's designer is putting a lot of those kind of elements into his rides now, which I'm fine with that. Let's go to 3. I prefer to be out again. It's back. There are a couple of different layout company or layout guys. There's kind of one primary guy right now who does that. Typically, it's just kind of one guy who's going, or a group of people doing kind of conceptual and then putting all the various bits and pieces together. But I believe at the moment it's kind of one main guy who's doing that. All right, so let's switch this over to the Intamin LSM launch coaster. We're going to go with 5 car trains here to start. We'll see how the pacing goes. May end up looking for slightly more. Okay, so first things first, let us begin with a small little launch out of the station here. Need to actually get some height. I don't like to do something immediately after I turn off the launch. I like to at least, if I can, keep one straight piece afterwards. All right. We'll go through some Cheetah Hunt style S's perhaps. over an airtime hill. Then we'll transition on to the layout. I think I do want to go ahead and put that airtime hill here in the launch. What I'd probably recommend doing, if you do go for this, is putting a putting some kind of scenery pieces on here so it makes it look like the launch stairs go through the entire thing. That's what we'll do for launch portion here. Booster track up. See how far we go up that spike here. Far. I don't think this is going to make it, so we need some extra oomph. We may just need a longer launch track, which is fine too. I know this one doesn't quite have the acceleration that the Giga Coaster does. There it is. Too much juice. Back that on down. Again, too much juice. Back all of these down, but we know we can at least get the acceleration if we need it. Still don't want that to go fully up and over. Want to get a nice little bit of hang time in there. I'll leave it at that. This. See if we're gonna make a difference. Still too high. 58, 58. 8. Meanwhile, pull back a little bit of this. Okay, so there we go. Didn't hit it. We'll get a little bit of height here. And now these guys are what we're going to need to use to really send it up and over. See if that's going to do it for us. Okay, we should get a big push there. Still not enough. So I got the timing right now. So at least it's looking a little bit better in that regard. I am using a modern train style. I'm using the Intamin LSM that Space K based off of Pantheon. I get us some airtime. We'll instead go with this one. Oh, that puts us right into the other track, which is not going to work. Let's stick with our tighter corner. Airtime here. Through our big inversion there. Airtime hill. Now the question is, where do we want to go? So what's next? We have a nice airtime hill across the launch. Ideally, you get a nice outward banked corner somewhere, but not. No worries. But yeah, I wonder if there's a better option here for us. I don't want to circle this one a little bit, and then look at just overall elements and rolls and things like that. Got our Immelman here. Could always do a dive loop. Will sort of put us on the other side of this. Of course, that's something that you can think about too when you're building. This is how foreground and background interact. I was going to do a dive loop right here, but I'm not going to do that now since it blocks that roll, and we definitely don't want that. I wouldn't mind a fast little turn here. This some better coloration, perhaps. Don't know how I feel about the colored rails. I kind of like it on some occasion, but it feels very classic, very old school to me. So I like the look. I have a hard time finding which coaster type it's going to look best, or which one is going to look best on. Interaction standpoint, it's going to be better to cross over these. Now I'll figure out how to go get it back around to the other side. Because I'd rather not do another Immelman element, although I like that for turnarounds. But this case may just be better to something else. You get a little bit of hang time there, which is not a bad thing. Hang time is totally okay. And there's nothing wrong with turning back to the right after we've just turned to the right. I just tend to prefer not to do it if I can. You're seeing less traditional elements than you used to on these kind of rides. So you're not really seeing the loops, you're not really seeing cobra rolls, bat wings, things like that. The top hat turnaround is an interesting one because I tend to not like to do top hats anywhere after immediately after the launch. So the reason being is that the speed that you typically take a top hat at is slow enough that You don't really want it to be mid-course so that you risk a rollback. You want it to be the very first thing, the very tallest thing, so that you know that once it makes this guy here, it can make everything else through the layout, because now it's got enough potential energy beyond just the launch to get around the rest of this. So that's why I typically don't do those. But granted, I don't really have a whole lot else going on right now as far as ideas go. Yeah, we'll just do another one. Because at some point also we want to do a 0G roll, or some type of roll here. We can keep this kind of nice and low here, then go back up through. Got a lot of low the ground corners, which is not fairly ideal, but he's oh. I'm gonna say that's amazing that that clears, but it certainly doesn't. This one also 12, 14, 14, 2. We can back that off and make it a little bit smaller, get some airtime out of that. Here's where we'll do that roll. Just a straight piece bottom. A straight piece here. Roll over the launch. Oh. Do a roll here on the side. Kind of slow, but okay. Oh, why? But the colors don't feel right to me. Something that I kind of do like the purple and the orange together. But roll inversions are really the big thing. So when you consider what kind of elements to do on these, it's pretty much roll inversions or nothing, to be honest. Which is not really the best, but that's what's selling currently. Certainly worked for RMC anyway. Go ahead and get our brake run set in here. How much space we need to get this. Not going to be quite enough. One tile worth of diagonal braking, which is not Not gonna cut it. It's fine. That ends up looking better, but ends up being too far away. This is where those outward banked corners would be kind of fun to do, like make this diagonal corner kind of lean outwards just a little bit. Be fun to interact with that hill, but maybe we'll do that on the mock one, which is next, I believe. I'll have to find a screenshot of Pacific Coaster's one of these and see if I can share it later, because it is a beautiful layout and far better than what I'm currently coming up with. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is, are you thinking kind of circle this way up in? I'm trying to avoid a full 360 helix, but I think I see here. Dang, this one's definitely catching me up a little bit. You're catching me off guard. How about that? That work? That good enough is what we'll call it. I also need to add an extra break back here. Moves. Play with that later on. Back to our one train. Get the thing to run. On a lot of these shorter ones, you see smaller cars. So it's not out of the question to have 3, 4, 5 car trains rather than the older school 8, 9 car trains. Anything wrong with that, but something to think about as you build your ride. Not too bad in the end. Has some decent interaction points here. Couple inversions. Airtime hills. Or a little diagonal breaks here at the end. So not too bad. We'll call that one finished. Okay. No, we're doing okay as far as time goes. Alright, so next one up is the new hypercoaster from Intamin. So this one I'm basing on Hyperion at Energylandia. So if you think back to the hypercoaster stream, we ended up doing a Vekoma hypercoaster layout that was kind of similar to the one that they had proposed for Energylandia before the park had gone back for some more proposals and ended up with the Intamin one that you guys see today. It's a pretty cool layout. Got this sort of Immelman inversion thing at the end. Even though I don't think it's being counted as an inversion, which I probably wouldn't either. It does have these sort of wing coaster type trains where it hangs across the end. We'll look at that. It's got this little water splash fountain deal. Kind of neat theming. There's an overbank. Love that sign. Walking through the O to get in. This kind of speed overbank. I think it's pretty cool. We may use that as a crossover. Got some ejector air time. It's got some floater air time. Sort of all in one of sorts. Okay. Let's take our Twister Coaster again, just because I'm kind of looking at this as far as the newer style of track goes, and we're going to stick with this. So I'm going to use the Intamin Wing Coaster trains. Not quite the same thing, but close enough. Yeah, potentially. I can kind of see it either way. I do like how these have a little bit of hang off the edge, which I do appreciate. Okay. I think the best bet here is for us to go for a steep lift hill. So this is the modern Intamin hyper coaster. Um, not quite certain that I like the. I want some distance. It's always the struggle of steep lift or shallow lift. I don't know. Because to me, the shallow lift, it gets us there faster, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to get there faster. I want to give it some distance. But we'll go ahead and go with the steep lift. This may be the better option. I do need to get rid of this one here. Kind of like a tighter radius on top. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this many steep or vertical sections. I would love to have a steep track, I guess, just to be able to get those sort of 70, 80 degree drops rather than the full 90 or not. I guess that's sort of a specialized one, but it still is a nice to have for me anyway. We're going to kind of peak this hill right there at the center, get some ejector airtime over that. Too much ejector airtime, wow. Not paying attention to heights. Try that. We can speed up this lift hill substantially, so give it 8. Said this before on the stream about RCT heights versus real life heights. Don't pay attention to the RCT heights. Just they don't make sense, and I just don't think they look good for another. Another one of our little speed hills in here. We're gonna do the one that we had looked at earlier on the coaster that's got the banking, I think. If not, we'll come back and do this one. I've not been on Hyperion. I've not been to Energylandia yet, although I'd very much like to. Looks like a great park. A huge amount of stuff. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am with it, X, is I'd prefer to have a larger if we can, but I'm not totally opposed to not having it. Let's get another floater hill in here. Just enough. Now if I back this up, get rid of this straight piece there since we got the nice smooth there. Damn it. Just shy of that. That's frustrating. Guess I can go put this one up to 7, and that gives us some more space. Alright. 18 is what we did that one at. Yeah, it's Energylandia is a huge credit haul at some point whenever I can get there. It's obviously the biggest one in the world right now for me, unless what's its face, Wonderland Eurasia reopens, and I can't imagine that's going to reopen with the same amount of coasters if it does. So this is the best collection of quality coasters still around, I would say. Easily pad my coaster count there to well over the 1,000. So UK trip is the next one, assuming UK border is open for next year. Hopefully there I will cross my 1,000 threshold. But we can. All right, we get that nice little steep corner here. Bank it early. Now the question is, from a turnaround standpoint, when we do. No, I don't really plan that far ahead. I'm at 950 right now. So it's one of those where at some point I will get to it and I'll get close enough to kind of know sort of whereabouts I'm going to be when it happens, and then I can start to think about what the options are. What I don't like to do is pre-plan, because I worry that when you pre-plan, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, or to rearrange your entire time just to get a milestone coaster, and I'm not really sure that's the way to go. I don't quite like that mentality of coaster riding. Big overbank wouldn't be a bad idea if there was a good way to do it. Exactly, that's the thing. Is you get some rides closed, and then the whole thing that you've planned for ends up kind of coming apart. So it's like, okay, I don't want to set myself up to be disappointed by something kind of silly like this. I'd much rather have the ability to be fine. I don't like the low to the ground corners. Gets up and over. Still got enough speed. Now we're at the point where we can kind of finish it. I've never been a huge fan of this element where it kind of comes up, then it comes back and sits, or comes back down. it's the best representation of an overbank that you can get in this game, I think, but I just don't like the way that it sits there. Would almost just as soon go up and bank the other way. And come through and do like a weird outward banked something. That element may be a little bit too weird for this ride. Not opposed to it. Before. We're gonna stick with it. And there's no such definition anymore with what's what can and can't have inversions and all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, I could easily throw a roll at the end of this, and I don't think you could call it unrealistic. I mean, it's just something that these rides can do now. It's kind of a part of things. We're to have a big one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, good, we can't get under there. Just barely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so we'll hit our block breaks here. Block breaks. Do break, 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 break. Go. So we'll call it 2 trains. Give it do that sort of Millennium Force color scheme, or you can do something a little darker. I feel about the red and black. We go with that. All right. So there's our sort of Energylandia themed or based hyper type coaster. It turned out all right. Yeah, not too bad. All right. So we'll call that one done. And that clears us 5 through. All right, so it is 4 o'clock, so that's usually the time when we get through 5 of these and we take a break. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you've been here the whole time, time to get up, time to stretch, go get something to drink or a snack, and I will be back in a little bit. I'm going to run ads for just a second to help support the channel. I will be back in about 2 minutes, and then we will power through the last 4 of these. We've got Mack launch coaster, we've got Vekoma launch and lift, and we've got Premiere Skyrocket. So see you. All right, let's get back to it. So, we finished Intamin. Let's get with mock rides. Mock's been doing some pretty cool stuff in recent years, and I think Copperhead Strike is a pretty cool one in general. Sorry, back to here. They're doing some pretty cool layouts. Here's actually the best look at it, this awesome 3D printed thing. I don't think they sell this, but I really wish that they did. Kind of see how the layout's going. It's just a knot of track. Double launched with an airtime hill in the middle of the second launch. Lots of hang time. This is a really interesting ride because it mixes hang time with ejector airtime on some pretty crazy strong airtime hills. Let's see if there's a Coaster Force video. Actually, Carowinds. We can do Carowinds. So let's have a look at this guy. So right out of the station, you get this hang time roll. Hang time is not my favorite, but these lap bars are pretty good for it. So I will take it. We come in and there's actually a show scene, which is pretty cool. Or the launch happens. Short launch, not very powerful. Mock launches aren't typically that powerful, but you get into this loop with a ton of hang time over the top of it, but then immediately into this airtime hill with tons of ejector airtime, through this corkscrew, around some of these little curvy wavy bits, up and into launch 2 over this airtime hill. So this is launch 2, through that loop, thread it. Kind of has a double up on the end. It's this sort of inverted hill thing. Overbank corner, loop, through that loop again with another one of those Stengel dive type elements. And then all these little whippy corners. Snaps back and forth from the banking. And it's a long, long layout. You're still going. Doing all sorts of corners. Pop up and then up into the brakes. I really enjoyed this coaster. So the launches aren't very strong, so you're not riding this thing for the launch, but it's great. So definitely get there and do it if you haven't before. Totally worth your ride. So what we're gonna do is try and build something similar to it. Unfortunately, corkscrew sizes in this game are not going to be kind to us, so we can't do it exactly. Get our twister coaster because that's the best one to do this with. So whenever we get to that new save format, we can do medium inversions. This is going to be one of those rides to be able to do that in. You're right, though. It is just a fancy cutback. Let's start up kind of high. This 4 is out of the station. I do want to dip a little bit before we do that inversion. We will go even higher. We're going to go 1 higher. 5. That lets us drop, get our roll done, then do this curve. Yeah, I would be happy to put some money down for that development whenever we get to the whenever we get to that point. I really hope that new save format comes in at least the next year or two. I really, really hope it's coming along. Okay, so we'll put a block break right here because that lets us do show scene. It'll come sit there. We're going to use the Mock Mega Coaster Train 1. And we're going to go ahead and do 4 cars for this one. That's how many Copperhead Strikes got. Can't do the block break because we'll leave it at that. Okay, let's get our boosters here. of a short launch. And we'll go into our loop element. Yeah, pretty much. At that point, I'll get it done. What did they say? I mean, I know they can't really commit to anything, but I'm hoping that there's some future hope, at least. Because for a while, it seemed like there was some hope that it was going to be this year. But I really don't feel like that's where we are at the moment. This is another one of those cases where a medium loop would be a big deal because I'm using the quarter loop thing here, which is not my favorite. Yeah, I guess it was around March time frame where everything seemed super optimistic. So perhaps that's not the case now. Back this one off just a little bit. Which is a shame, just because I am really hoping that they can get on it soon, and I wish that there was things that I could do to assist, but I don't know coding well enough. That's not my expertise by any means. Okay, so that gets us through first inversion here. What a corkscrew looks like at this speed. Fast. Too fast is what it looks like. Yeah, but the way people are cranking out parks here during lockdown, maybe we can get all that new save format goodness. Let's see what that looks like as far as corkscrew speed. I hate lifting corkscrews up this high, but to do them early in the layout, you have to. There's no real other way to do it, unfortunately. Hmm. I think you want this stretched out at least. I don't think you want to go from steep to immediately flat again. I feel like the not having the flat piece on top is what definitely helps, but I don't think you would want to go fully flat. I mean, the speed wise on this, I feel like you're still getting a fair bit of launch off of that. If we can get 8 and 5. Go. Look at the second launch. I do like how the second launch wraps through that loop, but I don't think that's going to be something we want to put out today. We will put that airtime hill in. That's pretty cool. $19. Do some kind of a steep incline like this, because that inverted top hat just isn't gonna do it. Well, hopefully looks like it's back now. Another element that would be kind of cool to have is the ability to do the quarter loop, do the twist, and then start to pull out like a little bit quicker than otherwise. So you can still have that 90-degree inversion there, but happens a little more tightly. I don't actually know what to do with this. Like I'm crowding the launch or the station here just a little bit, which I don't quite like, making me want to move the station. I was pretty pleased with how this setup turned out. Maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe instead I really just need to be getting a launch over here. And now maybe I kind of wonder if we can't get that loop rolled in there. Figure out the best way to do it. Let's see. Forget how far the large loops are stretched. Well, that'll work. You know, if it's still do the funky shaped loop again. Oh, we just got to figure out how to connect these two, which I have a feeling is going to be the exceptionally hard part of all of this. That's too big. Is that 25? Yikes. I think that's almost too big also. Let's see. It's got the height. That looks a little ridiculous. I feel like that turn, the vertical turn, only works on these when you don't have a straight piece connecting it. So at least this kind of looks like it flows a little bit better. Certainly get that top hat look to it. Just say there's nothing to stop us from helping finish off the implementation. Because that's the thing, if there's things that somebody without computer knowledge can do, I'm all over it. Like, I would gladly help develop some of that kind of stuff. So if there's things that they're looking for, let us know. I feel like we're getting closer, but be further away. The dive loop the answer here? It might be. Or is it really just a matter of coming straight from this and in? That requires a nice dive, which I don't think we want to do. Land. Might be a means of this kind of stuff. Perhaps that. Or are they out there? Actually, are they out there currently looking for testers, or are they? I guess that what I wasn't sure is kind of where they are on it. Like, are they looking for people to reach out to in order to do the testing? Because like, sounds great. All over that. clear this. Okay, might be as close as we're gonna get to this thing being not totally awful. This one is gonna take a while. Holy cow. This ride is taking time. Okay, let's run this the other way. Hey Fed, how are you? We are fumbling through our stream today, full of all sorts of technical challenges. Has not been the kindest day to us as far as that goes, but plugging away, doing what we can. Let's mark this out. So we're building something like Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. It's a mock double launched coaster. We're having all sorts of trouble getting this layout to look correct. I'm really not a fan of like any of it at the moment. It's not cooperating, we should say. But that's okay. And we can kind of muddle our way through this. There's nothing wrong with the week launch. You don't ride the Mox for the launch. If you do, you're riding it for the wrong reasons. It's honestly I don't mind the launches on them, but I mean Helix had a good launch. I'll give it that. But Helix is also one of the best coasters in Europe, I feel like. So like if you're riding Copperhead Strike for the launch, you're missing out on pretty much everything that makes it interesting. It's about the right kind of time there, but let's give it a little bit of a boost. Fine. Add a trench here eventually. Now we just get to all of the Helix type stuff. Made this interesting. Let's see if that actually gets us through. It does. Nice. The one corner, but we do get the rest. Dive down. You get some interaction with the rest of this part of the ride. Really want to get that nice heavy directional change going on a lot of these swooping corners. This layout's also way more spread out than what we would expect for Copperhead Strike. But, right? down. Sure, why not? With a little bit of interaction here. So we've got our 4 inversions. We're going to probably leave it at that. I thought about another corkscrew in here perhaps, but we can live without that. What I could do instead was, oh no, I don't want to do. Thinking about coming up and then dropping down the other direction with a corner, but okay. One of the things that I don't quite like about having corkscrews high up on the air is that when you put the supports down, you really have to watch where all the rest of your track goes, or else you're going to make it very difficult to do your supports in the end. I can't get these layouts right today. And I forgot to do it. I was going to preface the stream by saying that I think this is going to be a hard one as far as layouts go today, because there's just a lot of really challenging things to do in these layouts. That's 5, that's 5, so we can't do any more there. Now we just really got to wrap this up. Put some of that strong airtime in here, perhaps. So that's going to make doing those supports very difficult there, so not worth that, I don't believe. I think either way, I'm not totally thrilled with this coaster. But I find this layout to be a tough one because I've tried it a couple of times before and it just wasn't working out. There's just a lot to get right on this one. Ah, shoot. Hoping to get under the one and over the other one there, but not. What I can do is that. Maybe not. Oof. This is a tough one. Okay. Also don't like the colors, so I'm trying to figure out what I want to do there too. That's better. Like that. Like Christmas. Was something like that. Because the layout is sort of all over the place and doesn't have a whole lot of flow thus far. What we've been trying to avoid. Also trying to avoid some of the elements here being kind of off in no man's land. the terrain a little bit and see if we can't push this through to the end. What we'll do is like a double up here. Go there, and then we can go again, turn and come up underneath. All right, now we're at least we're just actually going to call that start in a diagonal. We'll do a little bit of a diagonal break run and call it there. This is one that I'm going to fix later just because I'm not a huge fan of the layout. Turned out pretty poorly. But you kind of get the idea of what's going on with this. The idea here, you've got your roll after the lift hill, you've got, or the station, you've got the block break here. You've got the roll after the station, you've got this block break here, that's sort of a show break for whatever you want to put in a box. Launch, loop, ejector airtime. Got a corkscrew. Since we don't have medium corkscrews in this game, we're going to stick with the small one, just up high. We have our second launch, which has a little bit of an airtime hill. In lieu of that weird top hat thing, we've rolling with this Immelman sort of stretch deal, trying to really force that loop around the launch. And then a couple of these nice curving elements at the end. Might be close to a Fred layup by the end of this. I don't want to just delete that one right now, but all right, we'll call that a day. Done. Okay. So let's go back and look at Vekoma. So there's a couple of different launched Vekoma options that I was thinking about. So the first one is one that we actually attempted in a stream before this, is the Vekoma Firestorm, which has a great layout. It reminds me of iSpeed almost at Mirabilandia. Great curves. This super cool twisted top hat thing. Like that a lot. Got those holding brakes on the drop. So very cool. Then we also have Abyss at Energylandia, which is probably more so where we want to go. Here's the concept art for it. This is the Vekoma Shockwave model. Got this pretty cool climbing, not inverting thing with a vertical drop, big loop, got a bat wing on it, got all sorts of great corners. I like this layout a lot. I think it's really cool. It's got sort of a pre main launch and a little twist section here, so you can kind of see the start of this launches over here. Sorry, where are we here? Back ourselves up. Okay, so the start of this, we drop out of the station and we launch through this little trench, and then there's this little bit of cornering here. Then you get this nice launch top hat type thing, almost like some of the S&S top hats. Big loop, these batwing elements and some things like that. Some pretty neat designs. So there's also the production model Shockwave that doesn't have that first launch, that just goes straight into the second launch, the main launch. You can kind of see what's going on here. A lot of these twisted airtime hill elements. I do really like this kind of climb thing. So maybe we can do something similar to that. See what that comes out as. But let's just jump right in because I think this is the one that I want to do. I was also going to look at the Vekoma or the Top Gun coaster. There's 4 of which are going into China right now. Really cool layout and self duels, which is even cooler. But I'm not quite sure we want to spend the time on that right now, especially after what we just struggled through on the other one. So let's get back to this. The Space Case made some new cars recently. The Vekoma MK 1101. Nice looking cars. We're going to use those for our ride. So we can go ahead and do, if we want to, we'll do a little launch beforehand. I said earlier, put a straight piece after your launch before your element starts. Really, the reasoning behind that for me is just to get just create some space in between your LSM stators and your turn. I think it just looks a little bit better. All right, now we'll stick with this. A little tiny starter layout here is not quite fast enough. Oops. Sure, I can cross that. Okay, and then we'll get on to launch 2 here. There we go. Get that to, I don't know, we'll call it 58 something. I don't think I like the vertical. I don't know if I like this either. It does give it some space away from the other. I almost feel like if this is going to happen, you're going to do a top hat of sorts. Have that, but that's probably too much time of you wonder. You did it like that. Yeah. Not feeling that one. Maybe this is the best way to do it. Hey, Coffee. How are you, sir? We'll see you here. We've been having all sorts of stream trouble today, so it's been a somewhat low-key stream, I suppose. We're through 6 layouts, some better than others. And then we've got the Vekoma looping that we're going right now. And then we're going to do a Vekoma lift. And then after that, we will do Premiere Skyrocket, like Icebreaker. I don't think we're going to be able to. Yeah, that's way too big. I wanted to do a cool looking Batwing. We may still be able to do that. At least here. This is where, when we talk through the pieces that would be nice to have in the game, the ability to have a 0G roll piece where you can crest a hill and also roll over, that's going to be a really gigantic help whenever that comes along. That's, in my opinion, that's going to be a kind of key element to making some really cool stuff. Can't hack that. Not that kind of element. No, not that, because that's still, it still doesn't look, well, for one, it never looked good back when people did it in the first place. But what I'm saying is, like, right when I crested, like, if I had this vertical or steep section here and I crested like this, it would already be upside down. So from, say, this first piece here up to here, the whole thing rolls. So then you can do a proper 0G roll, and then you can get into and out of these bat wings or things like that just a little bit better. I don't mind the layout thus far. Maybe we just will avoid the Batwing entirely. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Batwings on any coaster, really. But the 0G rolls on inverts are just so nice. I thought about that through the loop and Batwing, but I don't really want to go through the loop twice. That would be the only issue there, I think. You can always do a Cobra roll, which is not something that you typically see from Vekoma these days. But do a we can't do an Immelman because there's just not enough speed. Barely enough speed. Fine. Do not mind. I looked at it with the quarter loop, and it just wasn't gonna... Actually, that may not be a bad idea. Maybe you're right, yep. See. Overalls are overrated, though, I will agree. They are not my favorite inversion by any means. I have to move the station again. Still too slow. That's fine. Do something else. Tastes like a Chinese coaster. Totally fine. Then we get this, which I'm okay with. There we go. Look at that flow. So nice. That lets us clear our brake run also. Ooh, that might be too much almost. A lot of back and forth right there, but I do like it. Like at some point we actually need to change the direction, not just keep swooping back and forth. Starting to lose a little bit of speed, and you can kind of see from the pacing there, but not too bad just yet. But it is time to bring it home. This is where if we were going to figure out how to get through the loop, we would do it, but I think it's going to be too slow, too late for that, I think. There is no way we're going to get up to 11. See. Not a chance. Get there, but it's not worth that kill or that lousy pacing. And besides the fact I think it's better to just get this done to some extent. It almost doesn't feel like it's worth going back through the layout here. It might make more sense to go do other things instead with it. Or saying, go this way, get a 270-degree thanks. Really need to go back in the same direction. This lines up, doesn't it? Oh no, I have one gap, which is not too bad. Could put a roll here if we wanted. Rolls are definitely something that you're going to see a lot of on these newer Vekomas. Not so much the loops. This is why it's a little bit surprising here. Usually it's all an inversion for change of direction or kind of inversion to change banking from one direction to another, just a little bit more fancy. Get through this. There it is. Straight takes us just right under that, but I don't know if we're going to get there. We will. Okay. That's not too bad. What I didn't necessarily want to do... Hey Hydra, how are you? I'm glad you made it for a little bit. We've been having all sorts of computer troubles today, with at least with the internet being a pain. But I'm happy you made it, and hopefully you can catch the last couple of these. It's hard to say. I mean, I guarantee you that their layout guy was at least somewhat influenced by what RMC is doing. It's hard to ignore what's pretty obvious as far as layout goes. Like but the thing is that I don't think RMC are the. I think they get almost a little too much credit sometimes for these sorts of layouts. Really, it's the improvement in a lot of different things like track shaping and track bending techniques, and then also the ability to handle the track in a much better way. So you're at that point now with coaster design where you can really do some cool stuff and some stuff that's going to be pretty aggressive, but it's not going to hurt. It's not going, and you know what you're going to get before you get there. And I think that's really what allows these companies to do these kind of inversions. So I think it was coming anyway. It's just that RMC kind of were the first ones to say, hey, let's give this a try. And now we see a lot of other people doing the same. And I think by consequence, now you see a lot of people saying, oh, they copied RMC. That's not the case. I mean, nobody copied really RMC. There's just a lot of interest in this kind of a design, I think. So that's sort of my soapbox on that anyway. Now I'm at 6. There we go. Puts me at 5. I'll edit there. Maybe a little bit short on the brake run for this, but these trains aren't super huge. I think that layout turned out all right. A little on the short. Well, I shouldn't say it's on the shorter side. I don't think it is. I think it covers this type of ride pretty well. Has our nice little 2 launches in there, and it covers what we're looking for on a ride like this. So not bad. I'll take that. Okay. Let's go back to our one, and when we finish, we'll do a quick review, look around at all the other ones that we've done too, just to see. Yeah, thanks. I was excited for this class. It kind of derailed my my excitement having to go through all of the pain of this connection stuff, but whatever. Let's see here. So let's look at this lift hill variety. Very cool advertisement. There we go. Thankfully, no political ads so far. So this is one of many of these in China now. Vekoma is selling like crazy in China, mostly to the Fanta Wild parks, who are buying up all sorts of these. So this is the Hyperspace Warp model. The Space Warp model is sort of the base thing, and the Hyperspace Warp adds some extra stuff to the end of it that I think is really cool. Not easily done in RCT, but nonetheless cool. So you get this great steep little drop, but not very, it's not a big coaster. Very circular Immelman there, and that twist out right into the element there. Great airtime. First corkscrew, rolling right into the corner. I mean, look at that track shaping. Got that sideways banked airtime hill. Another corkscrew here. I banked whippy corners. Little airtime hill, corner directional changes. Same thing right here. Same thing right here. And this is the added bit, which I love. Come out of the tunnel, sideways bank, back into the tunnel, come out and into the brakes. Such a cool ride. It just does a lot of stuff in that really short layout. There's just so much to see on it. Highly recommend this channel, by the way. Maya Pa Masane. If you're interested in Asian coasters, because they've got a lot of stuff covered on that. So lots to see there. You can spend a couple hours exploring some cool POVs. So pretty neat, also pretty short. It's not super tall. So what we're going to do is actually try and base our layout off of the shorter design. So let's start here. We're going to use the Vekoma track, or the limb track, just because it's probably the closest. Like I said earlier, I would love to be able to have this quarter loop that also twists, even if it takes a couple of verticals to do it, so that I could do this and then kind of level it out on the side. Obviously, with the length of the vertical twisting piece, can't really do that. Oh, shoot. Thank you. So this is what I was saying here. I would love to be able to have a quarter loop here, twist it, and then level out. Basically just a big corkscrew that's going to follow the same thing. Is that you can see why the corkscrew just doesn't quite cut it for this. Doesn't really fit. But if you disable clearances and do this whole thing, you're already down at -4. So that's 5 lower than what you came in with, and then that's just not going to work. So because we can't really do much else with it, we're going to use the corkscrew. Be a little bit sad about it. We're going to get some hang time here too, I think. Let's see what this looks like actually, because this might be too much hang time. We're going to again use the Vekoma MK 1101. Four-car train, little one, little tiny train. Oh, guess we can launch out of the station for now. That's fine, whatever. What am I changing colors to? Oh. Yeah, not quite. Problem is the next size up is, in my opinion, just a little bit too big. But whatever. Part of it. 19. X sort of the ugly lift hill because of the, or not ugly, but the Schwarzkopf style lift hill. Now, because we can't get back down to the ground so fast, we're just going to have to be a little more creative about the layout planning that we do. The whole ride, I mean, when you look back at that POV, the whole ride spends like almost the entire time on the ground. That helix piece to get ourselves through. Corkscrew to this side, and then roll right into the next inversion there, or the next element. The whole ride wants to be really tight, compact layout. Oh, no worries. Yeah, I've decided, or I decided I wasn't going to use YouTube for streaming just because I think Twitch has more features that can be potentially useful. I mean, not to say that YouTube streaming isn't fine also, but not quite the same that I was, or not quite what I was looking for at the time. I've kind of gone with Twitch, but at least you found me, and thank you for the follow. So now you can find it more in the future here. I run into the other one if we try and corkscrew over there. I think it was a decent idea, but nice. Well, thanks for pointing in the right direction there. Yeah, it's not quite cooperating how I would like it to be, but let's see what we can do to finish it off. Got curve through, corkscrew. I don't feel like the corkscrew is taken too fast, which is right. I am a perfectionist though, but I think that's okay. It definitely adds time to any build, but at the same time, I feel like it also, if I'm not happy with the layout, then I'm not going to enjoy the rest of it. So I need to be happy with myself as far as what the layout is before I can really keep on going. Do the tighter turn? Oh, I can. I mean, bad idea. Can send it to the layout guy at Vekoma. He and I are friends. Disable clearance here for a minute. Out of there. Want to see, ideally. Pops up just a little too quick, so I'll put a straight piece down underneath, which is fine with me. You have 4 trains, fits in 4 spots here. Probably gonna be a tight fit in the station, but it fits. I'll take that. Throw some block brakes on here. This is probably the coaster type track that I'm most excited to have X7 do like you did with the RMC. The Intamin is going to be nice, yeah, for sure, but this is just, I can't wait to have this one. And the shoestring you got going on. Always exciting. Those coming along. Very nice, very nice. I'm gonna do like the one on the Don Quixote department store in Osaka. There you go. That's the famous one anyway. I never did go to that when I was in Osaka. I maybe should have. No, unfortunately, I haven't ridden it. I wasn't too far from it. I think Mavericks might have done it, or at least knew where it was. But no, I didn't get to see it. I've seen plenty of pictures of it. I mean, really, those kind of Ferris wheels are cool because you can do any shape with it. I mean, you can do some sort of super oddball shape. There's a kind of almost figure 8 looking one in Macau at one of the hotel or casinos over there. Actually, that works pretty well with the lift hill. It gets us up there right in time. Actually, that one turned out pretty okay. Not totally unhappy with that. I would really love to be able to solve the challenge of this inversion. Like a pull out of this inversion that can get me from here back to the ground facing 90 degrees away would be like super useful, ideal piece. But who knows? Anyway, that's it for that one. Okay, last one. Hopefully things will hold for this. All right. So now we're going to move on to the Premiere multi-launch Skyrocket, and we're going to look at Icebreaker, SeaWorld Orlando's new for 2021 coaster. So for those of you who might be new or under a rock otherwise, I work here, and this is a coaster that I had helped design. So this one is near and dear to my heart as far as coasters go. This is the first one that I have had a design in or hand in the design for. So the things that I helped with were the airtime hills on either side of the launch. The oh shoot, you're right. Well, that's disappointing. I have to go through those pictures again because anyway, it was the airtime hill on either side of the launch, the beyond vertical spike, and then some other little bits and pieces here. But I'm proud of this coaster. I think it looks all right. Gonna make the Joker with the RMC. You mean Discovery Kingdoms, Joker? That one I haven't actually tried to do that one before. That step up underflip inversion, which I gotta say RMC's names are stupid. Although I don't know if that was RMC or if that was Six Flags marketing. But man, the names are stupid for those. Oh, we're calling it a Junior Scorpion Tail. That's interesting. What else has that? Fury, apparently. Interesting. I wanted to name that, too. Oh, well. Hey, my coaster is relatively easy to do in the game. I think we can manage rather easily. I might. I might ask Dwayne why he chose that one. Although he usually has a good reason for stuff, so I will. I will kind of defer to him. No, the Junior Scorpion Tail is referring to the Beyond Vertical Spike, which is fair. Okay, so let's start low-ish to the ground. We'll go 3. Then we're going to go ahead and take Space K's Skyrocket Trains. And you're right, the backwards launch is more challenging, but you can do it. Okay, so I'm going to do this a little bit weird because what this one has that kind of makes it interesting is we've got this horizontal transfer track. So let's go back to, are there any shots of it? All right, well, so this bit right here out of the station, so the train advances out of the station and then jumps across to the launch track. So the whole thing slides horizontally across, and then in Icebreaker's case, it launches backwards, then forwards, then backwards, then forwards, up and over the top, and throughout. So 4 launches, pretty cool for that design. We're just going to do 3 because it's easier to do in this time. I don't really want to go ahead and shoestring all that. Let's select the... I'm actually just going to go ahead and do the Twister Coaster here just because it's got the booster track. And jump back and forth to other things later if we want. So the ride is on the smaller side, so there's actually not a whole lot as far as launches to do. Actually, we'll go a couple more. That'll get the length of the train. I want to have at least the length of the train. So let's call it that. And yeah, open has been pretty incredible for being able to do these rides properly in the game. Like just realistic coasters in general, having all sorts of new track elements and things like that. Let's call it that. Oh, we don't want powered launch. Do continuous circuit to start. Oops. I think I was going to run into the ends there so quickly. Need a lot of kick before it's done. All of these are going to have to go up as far as speed goes. Go 58. In this case, I am going to do the full up hat like that. It'll run 2 trains. So 2 trains, 3 cars apiece, 18 per. Hey, Vlek, how are you? Thank you for stopping by. Let's see if that'll give us enough. A good boost there. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And just because I want to be fancy with this, go play some mini golf. D or E. Back to Twister Coaster. There we go. Okay, let's see if it, make sure I didn't screw anything up, make sure it makes it over. There we go. Very nice. And then we can couple of airtime hills here. Oh, running into Hyperion. At least I can't say that I don't know the layout. Pretty ingrained by now. Is what do we want to do here? Because I'm not doing a full recreation of this. I'm just doing a, I'm inspired by sort of doing the same thing. Oh, clearances are still off. That means this isn't going to line up. Yeah. I'm not going to cut it, sadly. Can do. Thought it would let a crossover happen, but no. Could also do this. Maybe a good option. I don't usually like to use the steep dives mid layout, but in this case, I think make an exception. See if it'll make it over this. Yeah, pretty nearly. Sounds good. Have a good night. Okay, so we're gonna say that's 4, 5, and 6. We need to be lined up to here. That's not going to be able to do a diving corner, I don't think. Let's do this, which is fine. Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea, Hydra, actually, just to make sure that we get it. Do some breaks here. Also call these inclined breaks. Over. Oop. There you go. A couple of little airtime hills. We're doing next gen this today, so we'll do weird banking. Be our next gen part of that layout. Okay. Give ourselves a block break here. Ourselves here. And get our screens. Take a look at this. I don't want to. That's fine. For now, we'll just use boat higher than a single train. Continuous circuit should be. Doesn't want to cooperate with blocks at the moment. Yeah, I mean the weird one's got a 90-degree airtime hill and some other kind of fun stuff like that. So similar type idea. Premiere is no stranger to weird banking. That for be pretty strong airtime there in the back too. That doesn't slow down at all. What is the speed of those brakes? Oh, well, that's why. Wondering why. Holy cow. 18. This one, 22. First one down to 13. And this one down to 9. See how that works. So the assumption then is that you would build in a scenery transfer track, so then at least it looks like it's going to transfer. Yeah, not too bad. We could almost do weird banking at the bottom of this hill, but I don't typically like to do banking at the bottom of the hills. It's more so a top of the hill sort of thing. So we're just going to leave it at that. But that will actually clear us of our park. So not too bad today. So let's take a look at what we ended up with. Varying levels of quality. So we started out with this wooden coaster that I had built earlier in the day and turned it into an RMC using like half of the layout. Pretty safe layout, not a whole lot going on. One of the things that we were running into as far as a challenge goes is the speed of these or the speed management of these trains is not the best. So unfortunately, it set us up for a much shorter layout than we would have had otherwise. So not too bad though. We have sort of the hallmarks, sort of some weird banking before the lift hill. We've got this speed airtime hill afterwards, a double up. Got two different rolls here, some different corners, and then we have an outward banked airtime hill on that return run and a vertical drop. So we didn't actually increase the height of this compared to the original one, which is fine, but I think not too bad. So it can definitely be longer if we wanted it to, but I didn't want it to, so we're going to stick with that one. Mass changing is the other option, and I'm hoping that when we get the new RMC trains, those will work a little bit better. So here's the one that we made as a ground up RMC. I think I need to back off of the brightness of this. There we go. That feels a little more appropriate. But so this one had a steep lift. We've got this roll drop of sorts, kind of like the dive drop on Medusa or Storm Chaser or Twisted Timbers. So here we go, coming off of this. Kind of a little bit of hang time in there before it just pulls down and twists. Another double up. You get that airtime there. Where airtime kind of threw out a lot of direction changes. A lot of these nice diving corners. Have your fast roll right here. Turn around here, you'll see some outward banking, some flat corners. Another outward banked hill here. And then a double barrel roll to finish this off. I'm real happy with this one. I think this one turned out really, really nicely. It's compact, but I think it's still pretty readable, and we're not getting into any issues with too much repetition. So I'm pretty happy with this one. So we went from there to, where do we go to next? The Gerstlauer. So next was something like Fury at Babylonland, combined with something like Gold Rush at Sluggarin. So we have the turntable right off the station. And then you have your triple launch here, so you get your first. Backing it up to the second. We got our full launch here. Through all the different inversions. Unfortunately, RCT is not super kind to Gerstlauer's weird inversions. So we have some pretty standard stuff. A lot of hang time in that loop, which is very Gerstlauer. Wrap around that spike, and then we'll come up and do this kind of final roll into the trench, and then up into the brakes. Lots of airtime right there. So, all right. It's pretty simple, pretty safe looking ride. From there, we went to, let's see here, the Intamin triple launch, and then the Intamin hyper. So the Intamin triple launch, this was based off of something that Pacific Coaster had put together a while ago. So it's definitely not to the flow that his was. It was definitely not the best looking, but all right. How about an SNS loop release steel curtain? Sure. Yeah. Well, we got, surprisingly, we got plenty of time, despite the fact that I spent half of the time without a without internet. I feel like, oh yeah, let's we'll give that a try. We have the third launch here, making it around. Nice airtime hill over the launch. Some speed hills here, just kind of turning around. Some of these would have outward banked corners if you're trying to really emulate what's going on there. But not too bad. Hop around the end here, just kind of have a nice flowy left, right, left, right. I think that's one of the big things that I've tried to help hammer home, I guess, is that you really need to alternate your corners to get that smooth feel. I mean, just from top here, we've got left-hand turn here, right, left, another left here, but then a right, then a left, then a right, then a left, then a right. It's kind of going back and forth the whole way through. So not too bad. Could be better, but not too bad. And then we looked at this one here. So this is something like Hyperion and Energylandia. Through so we can here. So we've got nice steep first drop, good floater airtime here, good ejector airtime there. Got our kind of diving turnaround. Another hill with some good floater. High banked corner here, a little bit of the low, fast corners there. Smooth airtime hill. Round, we've got our outward banked corner, or hill here, but over. Then little hill here, and then a little hill into the brakes. Not too bad. Some decent bits there. All right, so after that, we did the mock coaster like Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. This one I'm really not happy with. I think this is probably the worst layout so far of the stream. So this one will be one of those that I'm hoping to go and redo here at some point soon to get to something a little bit better. But got our first loop. Really need medium inversions for this kind of ride to do properly, but we're using the half quarter loop, large half loop to do it right. Airtime hill with a hump in the middle through a implement inversion. That little airtime hill there with some ejector. Loop with some hang time. And then just kind of a knot of stuff afterwards. So not a fan of this one. This is one that I plan to redo, and I will probably screw with this right after the stream just because I'm so annoyed by it. And whenever I upload the file for the stream archive, I will also upload this one too. So not too bad there. Yeah, send it to me, Idro. I'm always glad to take a look. Okay, so after we did that one, we had our two Vekomas. So the first one was a Vekoma like Abyss. And I was pretty happy with how this one came out. So Abyss and Energylandia, not on purpose, but we ended up doing two coasters from that park today. So pretty decent looking double launched layout. Got our steep kind of top hat-esque climb, a loop. Instead of the batwing, just because we couldn't really do a large batwing well, we went with the elevated corkscrew. And then just a bunch of swoopy corners on the way back. Could have thrown in a roll potentially if we really wanted to do that, but instead we went with just the nice cornering. Maybe a little bit on the shorter side, but I don't think too bad. It feels appropriate for the layout. I think anything longer than this might have looked a little bit out of place or a little bit too dense, because I feel like the density is pretty okay through this whole area. A couple of spots here and a couple of spots here are be a little bit much, but not too bad overall. And then we've got our lift hill Vekoma. Obviously can't do the smooth kind of quarter loop inversion that we would like to do where this ends up on the ground. So because we couldn't, we're gonna end up kind of high up here. So we have these initial drops that dive down. A lot of these twisted airtime hills that change the direction. And two corkscrews, this one kind of elevated, this one not. Nice dive under the station towards the end, then wrap around into the brakes. And then finally, where's Icebreaker? So we did our Premiere, similar to Icebreaker at SeaWorld. So not too bad. Got our triple launch, little airtime hills on either side of that launch, and then sort of an airtime filled layout with this tight turnaround. Use the steep twisting drop, which is not necessarily the one that I'm a huge fan of, but or at least middle of the layout. I kind of find it's only useful for starting drops. But that said, we used it here and it looks okay. Our nice beyond vertical spike there, a little bit of airtime over that top hat, but hang time also. And feeling pretty smooth over top of the airtime hills. Speed feels about right. Especially right there. These are a little bit fast, but that's okay. You want that kind of for ejector airtime. All right, so there was a request for steel curtains, so let's take a look at this. So Steel Curtain is a SNS coaster by Joe Draves as the designer. Cool guy. It's a pretty impressive looking ride. I think this one kind of sums up what's going on here a little bit, just because it's got so much going on with shared structure, stacked elements, and it's just big, really big. So we're gonna do something similar-ish, I guess, and see how it turns out. Our nice lap bar trains. So let's see, does Coaster Force have a video on here? Yeah. Take a look at the POV. Ooh, gods, man. Curtain. All right. Coaster Force's videos are great lately. They've really upped their quality standard and everything. It's very nice. All right. Along. You're right, though. Does this low lift hill? Okay, so this has the record for the most inversions in North America. So we're going to start with this really high up, like corkscrew thing that ends up dropping down into a low fast corner here. And then this cobra roll of sorts that's a little bit shaped weird. Then we have our sea serpent roll here. Up and over an airtime hill, out over the water. We dive on the far end, dive loop. Come back underneath and do this 0G roll that sort of hangs underneath. Airtime hill, another roll. It rolls around here, and then this cutback tip element up into the brakes. So definitely trying hard for that inversion count record, but not too bad. Decent looking ride. So let's come back and see what we're gonna do. Let's go with the the limb track. Build ourselves backwards up. Question is, how does this end up coming together? Almost have a full twist underneath. You don't get too many mega loopers anymore. I mean, we've definitely shifted to launch coasters and hyper coasters and things like that really have airtime as the focus, or the launch as the focus, or whatever else sort of stuff like that. So it's kind of neat to see this kind of a ride doing what it does. The lack of steep to flat bothers me, so we're going to switch to twister. I think for those big drops, it'll look a little better. At 24, I can get away with, yeah. A little bit off. I can see how the layout would be annoying in the game. Oh, sure. I mean, fun challenge and annoying kind of go hand in hand in this game. Always go. And I don't want to do the. I almost want to do the quarter loop one, but I feel like that's going to be way too fast. And take out a section of this. Let's do that. And just to at least get us to somewhere we can test. And this looping coaster, not the race car, the other one. These are 8-car trains, I think. No, 6-car trains. They're just big. Or that's what struck me at IAPA when they had the car on display, was just how big the thing was. Maybe we do need that after all. A little sluggish through there. Oh, just through this one. Yeah, we probably do need to go ahead and put that piece back in. Fine with me. Trying to figure out where the lift ought to go. Ideally right there. Yeah, that way it fits through. Okay. Making some progress so far. The roll underneath the drop, or the airtime hill, I don't think I'm going to be able to easily do. I can't see a way that that's going to fit properly. So thanks, Hydro. Appreciate it. All right, that pacing looks a little bit better. I do still need to get back to 13-ish. We can barrel roll. Yeah, I'm happy with how the pacing's coming along. Trying to prepare for this. Version's really not going to help itself. I want to be able to go above. We could set it up where the inversion's taken relatively quickly. Curiosity. If we did it like this. I think this is the thing that you can't easily do with this layout is recreate or is put that roll underneath of it just doesn't sit well underneath of an airtime hill. You have to stretch it so far. I don't think it's worth putting in, to be honest. There is a bunch of straight track. I'm not worried about the approaches. I'm worried about you can't have a roll as it currently sits in the game under an airtime hill and still look good without a huge gap. Because you almost look like you're trying to share the spine of the two as it goes across. So like from the concept art, you've got a nice flowing hill here, a nice flowing inversion here matching that arc, and you're really kind of matching that similar arc throughout, and you just can't do that when your roll takes 6 spaces of flat track, 3 and 3, in order to just get that to roll right. I think in the case of this, I'm a lot less interested in actually doing that properly, and instead just doing something else. I do have it somewhere, but feel free to link to it in the chat. That was probably the first one that I think we saw in the game. I think you were the first one, I think. We're running pretty slowly now. The only challenge here, we start to get hampered by speed. First bit's easy. That's just a bunch of inversions. Fun to support too. You can keep it into the relatively centered setup here. There you go. I thought that one was done very well as far as what you could do with the ride. Oh, that's why. For whatever reason, I kept seeing 13, and I was wondering why this wasn't fitting. Not 13, it was 16. Yeah, I saw it got gold. I'm not thrilled about the fact that it got gold because I don't think it deserved higher than that. There are some people who just don't know how to vote properly, but that's a discussion for another day, perhaps. Ooh, that's a little too tight through there. You almost need to use the small half loop, but I don't quite think we're at that level of but yeah. I will. You know I will do a review. I am one of the people who will actually do a review. And hopefully others will follow. What this would look like. That actually doesn't feel out of place. A little fast. But that doesn't feel incorrect by any means. Pour over. So my problem is that with the quarter loop I'm going to be under the ground, which I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, the problem is it's still going to be under the ground. I just don't have the height to do that. I'm already -3 with the gradient, and if you do, or with the big piece, and if you use the gradient one, it looks a little bit better, but if you just go straight to flat, it ends up looking squashed, which is not the kind of look you want for a inversion, I don't think. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know which one you're talking about. I'm just not sure I think it'll look quite right. Right. Really want to do 2 corkscrews in a row. Turn back into the dive loop. Trying to think of what you mean on that. Max Force has got here we can look. layout diagram. Kind of has like this half dive loop deal, and then it's got the fast roll, and dive loop. Okay, that's the start. They clip any pieces to the end. It's a short ride. Surely there must be pictures. Fast roll. And then I think this is the end. Oh, do you? I see. You mean go the one way, then stop, and then reverse the other way. I think. I really think that's I'm not a huge fan of that. Like I know that RMC does it, and like I thought when I rode Cannibal the other week that was the worst inversion, that kind of rolled it halfway but didn't finish it, and then it reversed out the other way. It was just a weird. It was a weird feeling. Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. It doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like it flows to me. That's my biggest complaint about it. That it doesn't feel like it flows quite right. Like I want the continuous roll. I mean, you could easily do this where it kind of comes in and goes back out the same way, but I think it looks weird in the game for another. I mean, I don't hate it. It's just not my thing. I don't really want to do multiple inversions in a row, but I actually really like how this double corkscrew rolls over top of the whole thing there. But what are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Kind of want to do that cutback still. I guess this could theoretically be a cutback if we wanted it to. Yeah, it's definitely something they could do in real life. I just, in the game, it looks poor enough that I'm not sure it's worth our doing. First cork do I roll? The helix. Essentially. Yeah, the logo is cool. Hydro made it for me. Or not. Your Hydro. Josh made it for me. Yeah, it's he did a really nice job. Oh, did you? Awesome. Well, thank you. It's it's a good one. In line. Oh, it's in line with that shoot. I don't necessarily want to thread back through here. But we could. Runs into it. But that would do. could theoretically get our 10th inversion by up back right there. Getting ourselves a nice little diagonal break run. Go. I don't dislike that. I mean, I dislike it that it's messy, but on the whole, not too bad. There is a 10 inversion SNS. How the pacing goes. What colors to make it. Guess I'll make it recognizable in case somebody missed it. Launch lift will take care of it. Alright, got our roll drop, airtime hill, overroll, curve, sea serpent. I don't know, should I? I'm trying to decide because I kind of like the yellow track better. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that does look a little better. I mean, once you have the custom supports on there, there's going to be 8,000 supports all scattered around, so it's going to look pretty good in there. Airtime on that first hill. Yikes. Well, not too bad. Hopefully that works as today's bonus ride. But I think that's where we're gonna call it a day. Yeah, it's a nice disaster. It certainly fits the overall, and it fits within like 6 or 7 across, which is kind of what you want for the support work and everything. But anyway, let's leave it at that, and we'll come back either next week or the week after with hopefully better connection and a smoother thing. So if you got theme suggestions for next week or rides that you want to do, I try and get 9 rides that are in kind of the same sort of theme, whether it's different ones from the same manufacturer or just ride types or whatever. So feel free to suggest away. No Raptor, not yet. Wait till it gets merged, perhaps. But yeah, so feel free to send me suggestions if you got them. But thank you guys for sticking around despite the internet challenges. So hopefully you enjoyed the stream, and if you want to catch the review later, it'll be uploaded whenever I can figure out how to piece it all together onto YouTube. If you don't subscribe, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please go do so. That's the one that I'm most trying to boost up. And then also here on Twitch, if you'd like, welcome to follow or subscribe. If you got Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free, which is convenient, I think. So you just gotta tie your accounts together, which is easy to do. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. So thank you guys very much. Let's get our outro music here because I picked what fantasy theme today. All right, see you guys later. Bye now.